Theodore W. Robinson, Black Aviator. Theodore W. Robinson was a former flight inspector with the Federal Aviation Administrator, an investigator for the U.S. Civil Rights Commission who researched and lectured on aviation history. Mr. Robinson, a resident of Silver Spring, was a former military pilot and civilian flight instructor who recorded oral histories of early African American pilots. As a consultant to the National Air and Space Museum in the late 1980s, he helped develop the Smithsonian's, quote, Black Wings, unquote, exhibit. He organized a traveling tour of the exhibit under the sponsorship of the FAA. He also worked with volunteer organizations to introduce minority youth to opportunities in aviation and was active in the national organization of the Tuskegee Airmen. Mr. Robinson was a native of Chicago who joined the Army Air Forces in 1943 and trained as a B-25 Mitchell pilot in Tuskegee, Alabama during World War II. He was an Air Force reservist until 1965. He attended the University of Michigan, Michigan State University, and the University of Illinois before receiving a bachelor's degree from Goddard College in Vermont. In the 1950s, he was an engineer at North American Aviation in Columbus, Ohio, and at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio. He joined the FAA as a research engineer in 1962, working at the agency's technical center outside Atlantic City. He became a flight safety inspector in 1966 and was assigned to Philadelphia. In the late 1960s, Mr. Robinson was Mid-Atlantic Regional Director of the American Friends Service Committee and coordinator in Baltimore of the Poor People's Campaign for the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. In the early 1970s, he was assistant director and community relations specialist at the Mid-Atlantic Office of the Civil Rights Commission and an administrator at the Commission's national headquarters. He rejoined the FAA as a flight safety inspector in 1973 and was later a supervisory safety inspector and associate administrator for development at the National Airspace System. He retired in 1992 as an aircraft acquisition program director. After he left the FAA, Mr. Robinson was a simulator and classroom instructor at the Flight Safety International Training School in Wilmington, Delaware. He was licensed to pilot single and multi-engine aircraft and gliders and flew his own single-engine plane. He was clerk of the El Delphi Friends meeting and was a member of the Montgomery County Rainbow Coalition, the Friends Committee on National Legislation, and the National Board of the American Friends Service Committee and the Board of Trustees of Goddard College. Citations are in the description.